Now, a high-powered delegation from the Pan-Niger Delta Forum met with President Bola Tinubu just before he decided to impose a state of emergency on River State late on Tuesday. A former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Obong Victor Atta, a prominent member of PANDEF, was a part of that visit. He joins us now to speak about what assurances they may have gotten from the president and if the forum lived up to its own part of the deal in implementing the agreement. In all its engagement with the president, did PANDEF have any inkling of an emergency rule declaration? And what will the forum do now that President Tinubu has played his hand? Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
All right, let's get straight into it. Of course, the last time we saw PANDEF was when there was a meeting with the president, and the statements that emerged from there were encouraging Governor Fubara to be humble and to try and see how he can create a peaceful environment in his state. I believe the president's words were "stoop to conquer." Now we are in a state of emergency. What's your take on all of the developments of the past few days?
Well, the development in Rivers State is quite distressing. And I believe it's a manifestation of a lot of the problems that are facing Nigeria as a country. And you know, I have to bring up two names here, PANDEF and Chief Edwin Clark, because they stood for what Nigeria should be, and they saw a vision that has not been realized. And I bring up their names because some of the parting words from Chief Debanjo was, if Tinubu misses this opportunity, Nigeria is finished. He was talking about the opportunity to restructure the country into a true fiscal federal arrangement with autonomous federating units under one umbrella called country Nigeria. And of course, Chief Edwin Clark's words were, don't give up trying to bring about a better Nigeria. That was almost like an injunction. So those of us that have been disciples of these two people have to follow through with what they say. So I will tell you what I saw in the two people and compare that to what is happening to Rivers State. One of the things that they know was wrong with Nigeria was godfatherism. The second was the misuse or abuse of power. And of course, the third was the lack of accountability. So I like to look at what's happening in Rivers State in the light of those three headings and see whether we are achieving any of it. So if you permit me to go on, I'd like to look first at godfatherism. Because of the total lack of internal democracy within the parties, some people or persons even claim that they are the ones that are making governors. Why should anybody make a governor? That's the fundamental issue. Isn't it the people that should elect their governor? You know, I was put at the head of a 7-person committee to try and broker peace between Wike and the governor. We met several times with the governor. We could not meet with Wike. But that's not the point here. Is that I heard Wike at some point say that if Senator Mwabara was his father, he would have denounced him. So he's accepting the fact that a son can denounce a father. So even if it is he alone or with a group of persons that made Fubara, and you assume that Fubara has now denounced him as he claims, why should he deny Fubara the right that he claims the right to denounce his father, a right that he arrogates to himself? That's one of the basic questions. And it bothers me because unless and until we clear this issue that the person representing us or leading us should be a leader selected or elected by the people, we will not make progress. So it's a very disturbing situation, therefore, to find a governor that was elected by the people being sent off the seat simply because there's a political quarrel between him and his godfather. So this godfatherism must end if we are going to make any kind of progress. So if you want to ask me questions on godfatherism, I would quite gladly answer you. Otherwise, I can go on to the next topic, which is the abuse of power.
Sir, please proceed with the abuse of power. We'll come in as you progress. Thank you.
Can I go on?
Yes, please, with the abuse of power. Sir, please go on.
Do you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, now let me look at the issue of misuse and abuse of power. You asked me about what assurances we got from our president over the matter. We were very encouraged because we went to the president. The president honored us. He really honored us. And then the very next day, his minister was on television at a media chat abusing us, telling us that we are the most unreliable or useless organization that anybody can rely on. Is he telling us that the president didn't know what he was saying when he honored us and said he was throwing the ball back in our court and asking us to go and persuade Governor Fubara, as you said, to stoop to conquer or at least go and obey the Supreme Court rulings on all the issues, particularly on the matter of presenting his budget to the House of Assembly people. And we know, because I worked as the head of that committee, I know that Fubara made an effort. First of all, he invited the House of Assembly people. They shunned his invitation. They didn't attend. He made an effort to go and present the budget. We all saw it on television. We were told that it was just playing to the gallery. Even if it was playing to the gallery, why not give him a chance to present this budget? Since the Supreme Court, in his wisdom, had made it a condition that unless or until he presents the budget, the money cannot be released to Rivers State. But he didn't have an opportunity. Then he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter, which was even published in the newspapers, that he would like to come and present the budget on the 19th of March, I think it was. All we heard was that the House was going on indefinite recess. But even then, while on that recess, they were able to issue a notice of impeachment, if you wish, because they were listing all the gross misconduct that the governor had committed. And so he was not able to present the budget. That's the way we see it. It might be different, I don't know. But the next thing that happened, the president who had asked us, I'm putting the ball back in your court, go and persuade the governor to do this. We wrote him a letter on the 17th saying, we cannot reconcile two people unless we can talk to the two people. We've been talking to Fubara. We'd like to talk to your minister. Please persuade him to meet with us so that we can hopefully resolve this matter amicably. That letter was written on the 17th. The very next day, the same president that had encouraged us to go and do this announces a state of emergency. So let me read something to you, because at my age, I forget certain things. But the state of emergency, my understanding of state of emergency, is taken from the teachings of some popes in the Catholic Church, to which I belong. And they say as follows: power must serve the common good, and law must remain the servant, not the master of human dignity. A state of emergency cannot be arbitrarily imposed, cannot be an arbitrary imposition of state power, but a measure conditioned by justice, necessity, and proportionality. So even in times of crisis, government remains bound to the principles of subsidiarity and the common good. Emergency powers must be subject to legislative oversight. In an emergency, there must be an exit strategy. Emergency declaration must be a genuine response to crisis and not a tool for political maneuvering. It must not be used for the consolidation of unjust privileges, and it must therefore only be used with prudence, justice, and commitment to human dignity.
All right. We
can ask the question, which of these conditions have been satisfied by the declaration of this state of emergency?
Indeed.
We were not looking for an exit strategy. We were looking for a means of resolving the matter so that there will be no crisis. We were sure that we could get there if we could only talk to the two parties. But when one of the parties refuses absolutely to talk with us, what were we to do? And the president who had sent us on this mission, instead of backing us, as he said, come to me if you have any difficulty, suddenly announced a state of emergency. We see that as an unnecessary, excessive use of power. And this power should have legislative oversight. That's why I must thank the Senate, even though I don't understand how the Senate arrived at the support for the president, but I must thank them for at least suggesting that there must be a committee to try and reconcile these two people. So maybe the PANDEF committee was not good enough, but there must be a reconciliation, because every conflict at the end of the day must end up at the negotiation table. So we are quite concerned about this situation in Rivers State, because it's an unnecessary thing to have happened.
Well said, Mr. Atan. Thank you for giving us thank you for breaking down the timeline and the events that played out during that time. You made mention of what the late Pa Adebanjo said, taking from your quote. You mentioned that he said if the president misses this opportunity, that Nigeria is finished, according to the quote that you gave us. Now that you've aligned the three issues, the godfatherism, misuse and abuse of power, and lack of accountability, paired with the fact that your counsel was relegated to the background and the president proceeded as he so chose, how do you see things playing out with the realities and the elements that were left with at this time?
I don't know, because what is this? We didn't even see that there was sufficient crisis to warrant what has happened. And it seemed like it was a premeditated, predetermined something to happen, because the president did not wait for this legislative oversight to agree with him that there's a state of emergency before or after I declare, before implementing it. The appointment of the administrator was announced even before the Senate could meet, and he was sworn in. And I know that our president is very averse to military rule. Let's not forget the attitude that he took as the head of ECOWAS, when 3 West African states out of ECOWAS decided that they will overthrow the elected democratic government and take over. He was prepared to take the ECOWAS military and overthrow those military juntas and bring back democracy. So here you are. And I also remember that even when President Babangida stepped aside, he didn't bring a military man to head his interim government. He brought a civilian. But here you are, you can't bring a military person and the whole place is militarized. So what are we saying? Those are the kind of things that we just don't understand. So for me, I don't know. All I can do is hope that. And what is the exit strategy? After 6 months, what's going to happen? Unless, of course, we comply with what the Senate has said, set up and reconcile. At the end of the day, there has to be reconciliation. But it is unfortunate that we have to get there, because as far as I'm concerned, going back to the issue of godfatherism, the only contract a governor should have should be the social contract with the people whom he represents. But it seems it is different. Look at what happened in Kaduna. There was a breaking up of, godson and godfather. But the governor is still allowed to go on and function. But in Rivers, there's a breaking up, and the governor is not to go on and function. Because some of the people we talked to were saying, if they want to be subtle, they said there was an